Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hold up, have you registered for my new free training yet? It's called Get 3 Months Ahead on Bills with Fluctuating Income so you can do your art stress-free. The anti-budget money strategy for creatives, and it's happening on June 1st. I am going to walk you through why budgeting ruined my mental health and my artistic work as a creative. I'm going to teach you the 4-step process in the anti-budget money strategy. And I'm going to talk about how to get 3 months ahead on bills with fluctuating income and why this is the most important first step. And right after the training on June 1st, doors are going to open to my brand new group program, Cashed Up Creatives, which is the financial education your BFA never gave you. And it's helping creatives hit their money goals without budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks. Now, you want to be registered for the training because only people registered for the training will get access to a free bonus when you join Cashed Up Creatives in the first 48 hours. You're going to get a free 30-minute one-on-one money strategy call with me to map out your personalized money flow method that's going to help you get 3 months ahead on bills no matter what your financial situation is. So make sure you're registered. Link is in the show notes and I will see you there. Hello, everyone. And welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to bring on an incredible guest. Her name is Jane, and we have actually known each other since college. We work together in a money coaching capacity. She's a personal trainer, and I was a part of her program for a while. So we've had a lot of different touch points throughout our life, and I'm so excited to talk about today fitness and finances, also being a creative and running a business and all the things that go together with that. So a little bit about Jane before I let her really introduce herself. She got her personal training certification from the National Academy of Sports Medicine to help build confidence in the gym. And shortly after, Jane started her personal training career at Equinox. And then in the summer of 2020, as we all had a shift in the summer of 2020, she started her own brand, Movement and Mindset. Since 2020, Movement and Mindset has served thousands of people. Her goal is to help people feel physically and mentally stronger by building confidence through fitness. So Jane, hi, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited you're here. So as we start off, I would love for you to talk about your journey to how you got where you are, right? Like we were both in the same BFA program, right? Talk about that trajectory. You can go even further back if you want. Go for it.
Yeah, so I grew up, as many people I'm sure that are listening to this podcast have, as a dancer, singer, actor. I did musical theater for a majority of my life. And so when I got to the point in high school, I was like, okay, like, what do I want to do? I knew that I wanted to go into theater, went through the whole audition process. And I feel like that's really when my fitness journey started. So I started working out solely based on what I looked like. I really just wanted to get that quote unquote Broadway body. That was a big term way back in the day. I don't know if people still say that. I feel like the industry's changed so much since back then. But that was really like my first introduction to fitness. And so I was only working out for that purpose. I was going to the gym 7 days a week. I was on a very structured routine, although I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I was not on like a personal or like a strength training program. I really didn't understand even like how to use a lot of the equipment or correct form or anything like that, but I was hustling. And this was also like, I feel like the downfall of my fitness journey because I was going so hard every single day. A lot of what I was feeling back then stemmed from things that I had been taught my whole life growing up in the performing arts, especially like I did a lot of ballet growing up. And so a lot of that is very like, we lots of comments made about your body and about your legs and your stomach and all these things that you're hearing from like, I don't know, age 5 on. So when I started going to school or college for theater, I really had this kind of obsession with the gym and also my food. I had a really unhealthy relationship with both of those. And it just like, I think over time, I just knew that this wasn't right, but I didn't really know how to fix it. So as I was going through school, I actually kind of had an identity crisis. Like my sophomore, junior year of college, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do theater anymore. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing here at this point. And so I moved into a little bit more of like a producing role. I wanted to get more into directing. And so I knew that I kind of felt more connected to the businessy side of the industry, but I at that point like really wasn't sure what that even looked like. And so I was just kind of exploring things. And my mindset around the gym really started to shift because I was going through such a dark time in my career and I felt so lost. So I started kind of going to the gym more just to recenter myself, kind of to escape from everything that was going on and really just take an hour to focus on just feeling good about myself and just like being kind of separated from everything. So when I graduated college, I had a little bit of experience in business. I started to see that there was more out there than what I was currently doing. But after college, I actually took a job in Florida. And this was probably the lowest of lows for my mental health. And the gym was truly the only place that I could be alone, that I could step away from everything. And that is like when I really realized that the gym was so much more than just my physical body. Like I really felt like I was going for my mental health and I was going to just refresh my mind. And so after that, I quit that job. I moved back home. I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to act anymore, like officially. And so I got my personal training certification, as you mentioned. I moved to New York, worked at Equinox. Then 2020, I started Movement and Mindset, which back then was just an ebook. So I started that because during the pandemic, I was talking to so many of my friends and family who were struggling to work out and also struggling with their mental health. So Movement and Mindset, the ebook, was a 2-week program with journal questions and mantras. So it was kind of bringing in that like connecting your mindset to your fitness and bringing in like this can just be a moment to step away from all the craziness that's happening in the world and just reconnect with yourself. All the things that I had previously done, I wanted to bring into this ebook. And it went really well. It did really, really great, especially as like a first launch in the middle of a pandemic. So I turned it into a monthly program, which then eventually turned into my personal training business, which has eventually turned into my entire company, Movement and Mindset. So now we have a pop-up space in Chelsea in New York City. And we do personal training, small group training, group classes, and we still have our online program. So that's how we got here.
So incredible. I think it's so cool that there are so many like 2020 birth stories that came out of that like dark, dark summer, especially for so many of us creatives, right?
It's a
And
really dangerous time for an entrepreneur to like be alone. We're all like, we have to start a business. I don't know what else to do.
right. And like, thank God they stuck, right? And that we actually did end up loving them like to death now, right? Okay, so I wanna put a pin in health and wellness and the mindset around it because finances and physical health, there are so many parallels when you're talking about like getting your money shit together or like the thought of like, okay, it's finally time for me to like get my health together. There are so many of those parallels during that thought, right? That so many of us have had. Before we start going there, I want to now talk about when we started working together and you were literally like starting the logistics of your business. Movement and Mindset was like rapidly growing. And so talk about when we started working together and kind of your money trajectory as well, because I think it parallels a lot of what happened in your business.
Yeah, so I grew up with not a lot of like money experience, honestly. Like my family was like very middle class, very, very average. My mom's a teacher, my dad was a wine distributor and a restaurant manager. So we never really had like, I don't know, I never really had a lot of experience with money beyond just like the normal stuff growing up. My parents didn't really like weren't very like into like saving. I'm pretty sure I didn't even have a credit card till after I graduated college. Like I knew nothing. And so when I wanted to start a business, I was like, oh yeah, I guess money is like a pretty important part of that. And I had like no I didn't even really understand like how to save money. Like I think when we first started working together, I was so confused by how someone like me who was living paycheck to paycheck could even save any kind of money. And so when we started working together, my main goal was just to like organize things and just like start to understand what I was spending money on because I never up to that point had had a reason to organize my money beyond just like opening my bank account and being like, oh shit, okay, I only have $20 left. So that was like the biggest thing, was just like figuring out like, where is my money going? What am I spending money on? And how can I just be smarter about that? And so I took everything that we talked about, and then when I first started working with you, I was also starting movement and mindset. And so we talked about separating out my personal finances and my business finances, which back then I really didn't have to do because I wasn't an LLC. And I'm so happy I did, because when I became an LLC, it was so much easier to make that transition. And like, I remember, Brooke, you'll be so proud of me. Literally, after I like officially became a business, my accountant's actually the one who set up my LLC. And getting an accountant is very, very scary, because like she's in there. Like Brittany knows my whole life. She knows everything about anything that happens.
Financially naked.
And so, yeah, literally, I was like, I'm so scared. Like, I don't even like make a ton of money. Like, and she's gonna see like literally everything. And the first thing she said to me was, "Oh, okay, you're very organized. This is gonna be really easy." So that was great. Yeah, and I feel like just figuring out, or I guess learning that every dollar has a job, was life-changing for me. And realizing that even saving 10 cents a week or $1 a week, it does add up. And more importantly than that, it just creates the routine of saving something or giving the money to something. So now I have like several savings accounts, several investment accounts. And even though I'm not investing like, $1 million a week in it, putting just something in there weekly just creates the routine of me doing it. So I feel like that's been definitely like the biggest game changer for me, and has helped me be sustainable in my finances as a freelancer, and now as a business owner, and as someone who people are now like, I have a team now and people are relying on me for money, and being able to set money aside even in my business account as like a savings thing, so that I can give my contractors like not just like fair pay in what they're doing when they work, but also like, what do we do if they lose the client like that, or if someone decides to not show up, or if somebody goes, I'm like, I need to make sure that I have the finances to be able to back them on things that happen that aren't their fault. So organization has been the biggest thing, and that has literally changed my life.
Oh my God, I love everything that you're saying right now. I want to just highlight the fact that you said, I didn't have to because I wasn't an LLC, but I'm so glad I did. I want to just hammer that home for so many of the people who are listening, right? Who organization isn't just for legal purposes, right? It's for your literal headspace to understand, is your business profitable? And like, how are you paying yourself? And even just and I want to talk about some of the mindset shifts that you had during that time around money, is like, when you are paying yourself from your own business, it anchors you into, I'm a goddamn CEO. Like, I am running my business, and it has you show up differently to your business, rather than that headspace that I think a lot of us artists kind of grew up with, of like kind of the scrappy thing. We'll just do whatever. We're freelancing. Haha, we're just figuring it out. It like causes you to step
And when you
into.
start to really organize it, you also realize like, I was spending money on things I really didn't need to be spending money on. Like, I was overspending on things. Like, I always felt really guilty about eating out, for example, but I really don't need to feel guilty about eating out. I just don't need to buy as many groceries to equal out for the times that I'm eating out, because otherwise I'm spending groceries or spending money on groceries, and I'm spending money on eating out. So even just like that, just like realizing, what am I spending money on and where can I redirect it to actually match the life that I'm living?
Oh my God, yes. I was just having a conversation with a one-on-one client where we were talking about that exact thing. It was like, you're overspending because you're feeling guilty about not buying groceries, when if you just funneled your energy into, how can I eat out in a way that feels good in my bank account and in my body, you're going to save money and you're going to feel better, and like the guilt is gone, right?
Exactly.
Creating financial choices around the life you actually live, not this ideal or like version of you that literally cannot exist in the life that you've created for
Right.
yourself.
Like the things you think you're supposed to do.
My God. Yes. Okay. So I want to now, we're going to like venture into the mindset space. What are some of the like mental shifts and thought shifts that you had around money? And then I'm going to save the second question for later. Just go with the first one.
Okay. I feel like the biggest one is, you don't need to be making a lot of money to be organized and to save money. That was definitely the biggest thing, because I feel like when I just have money, and this might just be me thing, but like when I have just money like sitting in my account, I feel like I should spend it. I don't know why I do that, but I'm just like, oh, if I have like money in my spending account, that's like spending money. So being able to do a weekly money date and like look at my finances, and yeah, just like being able to organize things and really have like a spot for all the things has helped me create the room to get towards the financial goals that I want. And like as someone who owns their own business and works for myself, like I'm saving for retirement, which is crazy. And I didn't even think that that's something that I should or could have been doing. So that's definitely been like the biggest thing. I think the other thing is understanding credit cards, because that's not something that I understood or took advantage of for a really long time. So now currently I kind of work backwards almost, because I put everything on a credit card and then I pay it off with my debit card. So that has been great, because your girl has not paid for a flight in over a year.
Yes, I love that so much. Okay, we're going to come back to that then, because I want to hear a little bit about your soft travel hacking. I want to, the first thing you said is so important, because it's like, if the money's sitting in my spending account, I'm just going to spend it. That is exactly what should be happening. It's like the water will fill the space that it's given, right? Or like, even if you give yourself a task and you give yourself 2 hours to do it, or you give yourself 15 minutes to do it, it's going to expand into the space that you've given it. Same thing with our money. If like the money is all just in the spending account, it's just going to expand into the spending, where when you're actually sectioning it off, it doesn't have to feel restrictive or deprivational. You're just sectioning it so you can spend down to zero in your spending account like you should. It's just being funneled other places.
Yeah, I think also, and someone told me this about my business, and I've brought it into my finances as well, is looking at things just with like less emotion, and just like realizing that all these things are just data, and like looking at my bank accounts and being like, I don't have to feel a lot of emotion towards what's in my savings account or in my spending account, all those things. It's just data. It's just like, okay, cool, this is the money I need. This is how much I have right now. How am I going to get from point A to point B? And just making a plan. And it just like doesn't need to feel like you're like, we're not putting a moral value on the number that's in your bank account.
Yeah, it's math, right?
Yeah.
It's math, it's numbers. And of course, you're going to have feelings about the math, but like, let's do the math first. Let's feel neutral about the math before we start creating stories about it, right? I'm so glad you said that. Something you said earlier about committing to the habit of saving, committing to the routine of money dates, the habitual nature of physical wellness and financial wellness. And I want to come back here, because this makes me remember something that you say inside of your program that I remember, which is committing to the warm up. And it stuck with me. It still has, from when I was doing the monthly movement and mindset workouts. And it was, if you can't get your brain behind doing the full workout, go to the gym or roll out your mat and commit to the warm up, because that's so much easier to do. And if at the end of the warm up, you're excited to do the full workout, do it. If not, great, you've done a warm up, and then you move on. And that has been so pivotal, just that thought shift for me in my like physical wellness, that just holding space for the gym and for moving is way more important than what you're actually doing inside of the gym. Can you speak a little bit more on that and how you've seen that manifest in your money life?
Yes. I really feel like the biggest roadblock that so many people have, not just with fitness, not just with finances, but literally every single habit that people try to create, is what we call the all or nothing effect. And it's really just people being like, well, if I can't invest $100 a week, then I'm going to invest nothing. If I can't do an hour workout, then I'm not going to work out at all. And what's going to be way more effective, not just today, but also 5 years from now, is if you can commit to $5 a week, $1 a week, 5 minutes a day, $10 a day, or 10, blah, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Commit to like just that little bit, it's going to take you so much further, because things add up. So if you can create that habit every single day, like let's just say like you want to walk more, and you walk for 5 minutes a day, every single day. Well, now you've walked for like 25 minutes over your weekday when you weren't going to walk any, And so I think people just have this thing where they're like, if I can't do it all, then I'm going to do nothing. And so not only will you get more further faster if you can commit to a little bit every day, but also you're going to end up doing more in that moment because of what you just said, where you go to the gym, you do the warm up, and then by the end of it, you're like, actually, that wasn't so bad. I'm going to go into my first lift. And you can keep going because you have the momentum. This is from my nutrition certification. And I loved this. They have a whole thing when we're coaching nutrition clients about action before motivation, because motivation is really, really hard to come by. You don't get a lot of motivation in our lives, especially about things that maybe we're not innately passionate about. So instead of looking for motivation, just look for a small action that you can act on, like doing the warm up, like saving $1, like doing all of those things, because it creates the motivation once you start getting into the routine. But if you are just sitting around like waiting for the motivation to start your fitness journey, it's probably never going to come. Whereas if in the moment that you're like, I really feel like I should start working out, great, stretch for 5 minutes. You've done some movement today. Do the same thing tomorrow. And just work up, and it has this domino effect. And by saving that space in your brain, on your calendar, in your life to make these habits, you're just more likely to grow on them.
Yes. And motivation, right? Like you said, you cannot rely on it. So like, even if you have so much motivation 1 month to start something, at some point that motivation is going to dwindle, and motivated you has a much larger capacity for the kind of action and the amount of action they can take than unmotivated you. And it's about creating plans, or you tell me your thoughts on this, but how I speak about it when it comes to money is you have to create systems and strategies and actions that unmotivated you can do no problem. And then if motivated you wants to do more, that's fine. But your baseline has to be the version of you that, like for me, I have lots of anxiety just in general. I struggle with anxiety. I have to have, right? Like, hey girl, um, we have to create strategies that my anxious ass can still complete and do, that doesn't paralyze me when I'm at like kind of the lowest of my lows. And then when I'm feeling good, I don't have to work hard to get my shit done or go to the gym. But what are the things that anxious me needs to make all of that stuff sustainable? Like our physical bodies and our money are like two of the longest relationships we're ever going to have in our life, right? So how do you make sure that they are long?
Yeah, and I think like don't be afraid to ask for help, because there's so many resources to help you. I mean, like you and I are both coaching these two very important things. And I think that there's sometimes people have this shame around like asking for help with things that should quote unquote be easy because they're so important, like fitness and finances. But we know it's hard. Like I know it's hard to stick with a fitness routine. If it was easy, I'd be out of a job. Like I know it's hard. I struggle with it. And I have all of the tools in the world. I know what I'm doing. I have free access to a gym. I have programs already written. Like I have the easiest, like I should be able to do this more than anyone else. And I struggle with it.
Yeah.
And like even like right now, like I finished up we're finishing up really crazy busy season. And so I've looked back and I was like, oh wow, I haven't really worked out in 4 weeks. Like I've done a little bit here and there and like led some workouts, but I haven't really taken time off camera away from other people to work out for myself. And so currently I am like dedicated to 30 days of intentional movement every day. I'm not dedicated to 30 days of strength training. I'm dedicated to intentional movements. So like my first day was strength training. My second day was walking. Today was biking home from work. Like it doesn't need to be so strict and structured, as long as you're creating the time around it and creating the habit. It's just going to last you way longer. It's way more sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, that's so good. And I also want to point out that like you and I coach on these things, but we've also been each other's client because my zone of genius is money. Your zone of genius is fitness. And I don't have a fitness zone of genius. So I need help in someone else's zone of genius and vice versa. So like
Yes.
the best coaches get coaching where they're not in their zone of genius. And even us, like, right, we have to take our own coaching. Like I pull out my financial CEO party checklist. I am going through and like doing my own mindset prompts, my thought work prompts that I give my clients when I'm feeling money anxiety, right? Like we have to take our own coaching too, because that's the human experience. So I'm really glad you touched on that, because shame around not being able to do it on my own is such a huge thing that we hear, I think, around money, around health, of other people can do it. Why can't I? Other people have this figured out. Why don't I? Have you heard your clients say something to that effect?
Totally. And I think especially because of social media, like there's so many people who have created entire jobs around working out online. And something that, and I don't know if maybe you've seen this with like finances too, but something that like people, yeah, definitely. I think what people aren't talking about when they make a job out of fitness is like, A, their genetics. B, this is their job. They have all the time in the world to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours and do whatever they want. They're being sent free stuff. So they're not even probably paying for their gym membership, their work clothes or their workout clothes, like anything like that. So not only are they being given the tools, but this is also what they're supposed to dedicate so much of their day to. And so I think that is usually what we're showed, but we're not often shown just like the average normal person who has a 9-to-5 job and has kids at home and maybe also like a side hustle or another hobby. We're not showed like how they get into their fitness or their workout routine or days that they struggle with it. I think a little bit now people are showing more of that because it's more interesting to people online nowadays. But like there's still a lot of people out there that I can look at them and be like, we're probably not seeing a lot of what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Definitely. Yes, yes, yes. And so even for people listening to this right now, like also just knowing that like, right, Jane, you own a fitness company, right? I own a money coaching business. I spend 25 hours a week coaching clients and thinking about money mindset and money systems. So of course, when I'm in a moment of money anxiety, because I've been thinking about it for 25 hours a week, I'm able to really easily pull out tools and snap myself out of it, right? Like I'm crafting strategies. That's my literal job, right? So the fact that it's not immediately coming easily to you, exactly. Like of course it isn't, right? Because you have a full acting career, you have a full ass job, you have a full ass baby, like whatever it is, there's so many other things that are a part of your life. So good, right? Eliminating shame. Okay, so now I want to ask you, kind of going back to your own financial journey, especially with your business and your finances. I would love to know how the stuff you implemented in your financial life and your business financial ecosystem helped grow your business. What was the correlation between those two?
I think the biggest thing is having a weekly money date for my business and my personal life, because again, like even before I was like had a real LLC business, having those separated was great because I'm viewing the business differently than I'm viewing my personal finances. So that was huge. And then I feel like implementing that, I know I've already talked about this like a million times, but I feel like the biggest thing that helped me is that every dollar has a job. And putting that, especially with my business account, thinking about like, okay, like what do I want to do with my finances in my business account, and creating those same systems in there has allowed me to do things that freelancers don't often, they're not often allowed to do, quote unquote allowed to do, like PTO. When does a freelancer get paid to take time off, you know?
Right.
Never do. So taking out a little bit of the money that I could be paying myself, especially at the time, and putting it into like a little PTO fund for me. Things like that have helped me view, also like just view it as a real job. Because I think sometimes when you're working for yourself, you kind of go back and forth of like, is this real? Like, am I doing the right things? Is this a real job? Is this a real business? And being able to give myself the things that I think at first I probably would have felt a little bit guilty about. But when I think about like a lot of my clients who I work with, because I work with a lot of people who have 9 to 5s, and listening to what they have, it's like me as a freelancer deserves to also have those things. PTO, having like other kinds of benefits, and like disability leave. In New York, you legally have to, but like I think even if you didn't legally have to do that, you should still have those kinds of things lined up. Workers' comp, family leave, like those kinds of things are so important, not only to financially like have your back, but also I think to really realize that you are running a legitimate business and should just think about, I'm doing this shit.
Yeah.
A little bit more seriously, because especially when you're first starting out in a business, or like I mean, my husband's an actor, like I think that a lot of people don't take it seriously until you hit a certain point. And like even now, like I feel like movement and mindset has grown a lot, and we've done some really cool things. But even now, I still run into people who don't take it seriously. And I've talked to people about Grant's career who don't take it seriously. And you can't let that affect you. And I think when you view your finances and you view your business and your career as a business and a career, it doesn't really matter what other people say. But I especially in the beginning, it's very easy for people to talk down on you and to let it affect you.
And it will affect you so much more if you're not grounded in like, no, I know what I'm doing. No, this is a business. And people will take cues from you on how to view your business or your career, right? And like, I know as an actor, right? When I got grounded in like, what was my profit as an actor? How am I viewing my acting as a business? And like seeing it as a legitimate career path, right? It's not just like this thing I'm really trying to do. I'm not just an aspiring actor. I'm a working actor. And when I grounded into that with myself, I actually get so much less of the comments I used to get of like, oh, where you going, Broadway? What's your backup job? What's your plan B? Because before my energy around it was like, yeah, I'm trying, like, so going to auditions, it's so good. But this new energy of like, yeah, I'm a working actor receives less of that because people take cues from you on how to treat you.
Yes, I also think people maybe like, as someone who's running a startup, I don't think people also realize that startups don't make a lot of money. And like people who are starting businesses don't make a lot of money at first. And that's the same with actors. It's like, it's not that it's not like a legitimate, like when they started Facebook, I bet they went through a long time without seeing a profit and without making money off of it. And look at it now. You know what I mean? So it's like exactly what you're saying. It's like viewing it like a business, even if right now, maybe the thing that you want to be making a lot of money on in the future isn't the most profitable thing right now. Maybe you have another job that's supporting you. That doesn't make it any less legitimate or any less of a career. I worked at Equinox while I was doing movement and mindset. It didn't make movement and mindset any less of a business or a career. It just wasn't what was making the most money at the time. But now, fast forward 4 years later, and now it's my full-time job.
Yeah, right. And starting to view it as a full-time job and as a real thing when you were only making a little teeny bit is a huge part of then why it grows to where it is, right? Like you said, Facebook knew it was going to be the cat's pajamas or that's the thought it had about itself, right? At the very beginning, which is what made it grow to where it is, right? I had the thought when I made, I think it was $1,000 my very first year. And I was like, oh my God, $1,000, we are kicking ass business owner, right? But like me getting confident in my business at a $1,000 revenue year is the reason that now I make over 6 figures in revenue each year, right? Like it starts before you actually see it in the bank account or in the whatever your metric of success is, it starts in your brain.
Yeah, and that's the same with everything that's successful. I know like when I was working like in producing a little bit, we talked about that where it's like plays take like 7 years to get to Broadway. And I think people just think that things pop up overnight, and they don't. And that's a good thing because you learn a lot in that time where, like if I blew up and was like in the business that I am now 4 years ago, I would have no idea what the heck is going on. Like I'd be so stressed and so over my head. And like you need the time to slowly grow. You need the time to slowly work into your fitness routine. You need the time to slowly work up the organization of your finances, because anything that happens overnight is extremely overwhelming. And even though things look like that, that's never the case.
So good. Like everyone just think about you land your dream role on Broadway right now. Are you actually ready, like literally tomorrow, to jump into that? Are you trained? Is your headspace there, right? Like it is about getting prepared in your brain before it actually happens, which is what makes it happen. My next question for you is, I know that there were some big financial moves you made inside of your business, i.e. a physical pop-up space. And I know when we were working together, it's like wanting a physical space to like open a gym, right? Those sorts of money moves. And you literally made a pop-up space happen. What were your thoughts and how did you tactically make that happen?
I was terrified. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's really scary.
Valid.
Like the biggest thing I had ever invested in the business ever. So the opportunity fell into my lap, which is crazy because I mean, this was probably like October and the space that I'm in now. So basically, if you haven't seen online, I am in a pop-up studio that's inside of a bigger studio. So it's like a co-working space for trainers, Pilates instructors, physical therapists. It's like a big co-working space. And it's like as if I have my own office. Like I have a whole corner that is our pop-up studio. So in October, the owners of the studio had just reached out to me, asked me to come tour, which is really common when they're looking at independent trainers. They want people to come see their space and maybe see if they want to take their clients over there. So I went on a tour. And the owner, who's amazing, I love him, he was just asking me like about my business and what I wanted to do and what my goal was. And so I told him, I really want to open up a workout studio. I've started hiring on some coaches. I feel like, I'm at this point where I want to grow, but I really feel stuck with what I have. Like I had felt like at the time I'd outgrown my current situation. And so I was talking about that and he was like, oh, let me show you something you might be interested in. And he brought me to this office that they had in the corner. And he was like, we have this office right now, but like no one uses it. We're not doing anything with it. Would you be interested in taking this over? And I was like, I need like a whole breakdown. I need this like in writing. Like, what does that even look like? What does that even mean? Like, do I have to buy the equipment? Like, what am I responsible for? What am I not responsible for? And so we had a lot of different meetings, lots of like negotiating, figuring out who was going to be in charge of what. And this was very scary financially because I had, again, like never invested in something and they needed first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit. And that was October. They needed that by December. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I was also kind of having like imposter syndrome around like, this was supposed to happen. I wanted a pop-up studio, but that was supposed to happen in like 2026. And this opportunity that's like in my lap right now. And so I'm really lucky to have an amazing accountant. I love her. Like she's so supportive and not just like is there to like do my taxes, but also really wants to help grow people's businesses and help do all this. So she helped me sit down and kind of math out like where are we going to take this money from? And it kind of worked out where I was confident that I would remake my tax dollars by the time tax season had rolled around. So we actually took my tax money and put it towards this space. And oh my God, I'm like tearing up. And then literally so I took this leap and then in Q1, we made what I made my first year of movement and mindset, which is crazy. Yeah. So we took a leap and it was so weirth it because we really like made such an incredible space and the community is so cool. And like before we're all spread out over this co-working space. And so we like didn't even really like people didn't know who was working with us. They didn't know the clients that we had. And so now we're all in this room and it's just brought like people together and I'm able to support more coaches and we're able to offer more things that are really helping our clients. And it has just been the most challenging, the scariest, I've never worked harder in my entire life. And it's the most fun I've ever had. It's just like, everything is happening and I spend every day coming home being like, it's happening. Everything's happening. Like, am I okay? Is everything okay? Like it's so crazy that this just happened so fast.
Oh my God. I'm so excited for you. I'm so freaking proud of you. Like, that's so incredible. And like, even just, this is such a great example of how your financial wellness literally rippled out to giving people a space and like changing so many lives because of what you were able to do. The fact that you saved for taxes is the reason that people are able to come together and completely change their relationship with their body and their food and their fitness. Like you did that. You saving for taxes did that. And also the fact that you allowed yourself, like the belief you had to make that money back. So you were able to put that money towards this space that you had the cash in the bank. Like this is so incredible. Like financial wellness is not just about you, right? And it gives you options.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I mean, a big reason that movement and mindset even exists is because I am still like mind blown by the fact that women's fitness is so screwed up. Like
Yeah.
it is insane. And even in actually like literally every gym I've ever been in, except for this one, which has been a really, really great space. Like not just like my co-working space, but like literally the whole place is just so, so incredible. But I've walked into so many other gyms where women feel uncomfortable and women don't have a space to just strength train. It's either like so male dominated and they feel uncomfortable because like people are talking down to them and being rude to them, or it's like hot pink and like everything has peaches on it and it's like kind of almost on the other end of the side of the pendulum where it's like, you know, it's just like women just a lot of women just want a space to strength train that just isn't either way. Like it's just a neutral, nice, clean, beautiful space to just strength train. And
Mhm.
creating that space for them, creating safety for our clients is number one. And so, yeah, like when the opportunity presented itself, was it scary? Yes. But I think that our clients deserve to have a space where they can feel safe and comfortable and just like be themselves and ask questions and just pick up weights and put them down, you know?
Yeah.
And surprisingly, that is extremely hard to find.
Yeah, that's so good. And I'm so glad that people like you exist who have really strong missions, right? And really amazing zones of genius to create those spaces and that you didn't let the financial fear stop you from creating that place. And like I love that you said you looked at the numbers and you worked with your CPA. Like, yes, it's important to like know the facts and then make the calculated risk to bet on yourself, to bet on your business, and to bet on the people who are going to show up to like know that that was going to be worth it, because that the bravery it takes to make a risk like that, even with the facts behind you, is so huge. Okay, so before I ask my final two questions, I would love for you to tell people where they can find you and connect with you if they so desire.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Jane K. Vandervoort. You can find Movement and Mindset on Instagram or TikTok at movement.and.mindset. You can also find all of this information at movementandmindset.com. We just redid our website, so go peruse.
Oh, amazing. And all of these links will be in the show notes. Everyone go click on the website and go check out the new site, the new brand. So now the first of my final two questions. One, if you had to tell the people anything about financial fears, money organization, your time inside of coaching, what you've learned about money, what would you say to the people listening?
Getting your money organized is one of the best things you can do for your mental health. Sorry, my dog keeps barking. I think like I know we've talked about the crossover between working out and like your financial wellness. And I think really like the biggest thing is just that your health and your finances are the two things that create safety for you. And if you don't feel safe in your body, in, you know, being able to pay your bills and pay your rent and all those things, that is probably the biggest like downfall on your mental health, is just not feeling safe, not feeling secure, not knowing what's going on. And not in every case, you know, like there's definitely cases where it's out of your control, but there's a lot of things you can do to help you work towards living in a healthier life or having a better organization process for your finances. And just taking the time to learn more about how to do that is, I really truly believe, like one of the best things you can do for yourself right now and for future you.
That's so good. Fucking bars, Jane. The last question now is, when it comes to mindset, thought work, I would love for you to share what is one or two of the thoughts you continually come back to, or the mindset exercises or reframes that just sticks in your brain. It can be about money, it can be about fitness, it can be about life in general. What's one of those things that just is your baseline, your foundational tool or thought?
I think one of the biggest ones that I always come back, or the biggest one that I always come back to, is you can rest, but you cannot quit. And that is something that I say to myself a lot. And like, I recently started running, and that has been a big thing for me. Is like, you can take a second if you need, you can take a breather, but you cannot quit. And I'm so lucky to have like the most supportive husband in the whole world. And he says that to me a lot as well, where he's like, if you need to take a break, because like running a business is hard. It is so hard. Like I'm making it sound like fun and stuff, but it's freaking hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And so like, he'll say that a lot to me too, where he's like, take a second, step away. And then I've had moments where I'm like, I want to give it up. I don't want to do it anymore. This is so hard. This is so draining. I'm spending so much time on this, and I'm not even sure if it's going to work out. I'm not even sure if it's worth it in the end. And when you catch yourself in those moments, it's so easy to quit. And reminding yourself, or having your support system just remind you, like, take a break, step away, but don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on whatever journey you're in right now, because it's going to be worth it, you know? Anything worth it is going to be hard to get to. So I always tell myself, like, you can rest, take a minute, but you cannot quit.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I'm going to steal that. That gave me chills when you said it. So good. That's such a fantastic place to end. Thank you so much, Jane, for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your thoughts. I'm sure so many people are going to get so many things out of this episode. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.